Right here. This is your stage.
My stage?
Yeah.
Oh, people there. Hello,
There's people there. So yeah, your workspace is being caught with my phone cam, and then this one's on your face.
Oh, there it is. So I'll just focus on that. Right?
So, oh wait, we gotta make sure we're unmuted over here. If everyone can hear me and Curtis, give me a thumbs up.
Hi.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Wait, we can't hear anything that is really being said. It's very low. Okay.
Someone said that?
Uh-oh.
Said that. Oh, we got a thumbs up.
How about now? Can you hear anything? Maybe?
What's the microphone? The phone?
Yeah. Maybe I disconnect the speaker. Whoa.
Hello.
How about now?
That's louder.
That's on my speaker then. Audio is muffled. Oh, it's louder now. Better now, louder. Oh, it's on someone else's. Okay. Oh, yours. My brain, y'all.
This is great. This is fantastic.
Okay, we figured it out. Curtis, take it away.
Wonderful. I'm gonna share. That's great. Okay, cool. Let me just real quick see how we do it like this.
And it's recording, so everyone knows.
Perfect. So if I mess up, you can watch forever. Okay, cool. Awesome. Hear me? Cool. Good. Great. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for having me here. Hello, everyone. I'm Curtis. I went through design program here. Where was that? 5 years ago? Was it 5? I think it's 5 years ago. Woo. Yeah, and now I co-own and am the creative director of the Yellow Brick Group, design and branding firm here in Sacramento. And let's see, man, everyone's just off camera. It's okay. I'll let you slide. And then yeah, so tonight I'm kind of going to be going over. I've been using. I did not make this method. If you've ever looked it up, the bullet journal method. Drawing a blank on the guy's name, but I've been using it for probably about 7 years. I started it when I got into Sac State. I had like multiple notebooks and lots of things. ADHD for me is something that I constantly like am having to like have stuff like in physical form. So I went through so many different apps of like, oh, this will help task manage your life, and this will, and then I did it, and I would get everything in there, and I would never open the app again, and so nothing exists, right? Because object permanence is a real thing. So I found that writing stuff physically down, like in a format that's like not overly structured, and you can constantly be adapting and changing it, is the best way for me. And so when I stumbled on bullet journal, it was a lifesaver, because that's essentially what it is. The whole point of bullet journaling is to prioritize things you need to work on, things in your life as like that are priority, and then you can get rid of the other things that aren't. But it's a process where you see it every day. I love it because you can use one book, and because of the index page and things we'll go over, it doesn't have to be like, oh no, I only delegated like 10 pages for this thing and now I need 12 more. Doesn't matter. You can start doodling on this page, write notes for one class here, next class here, skip a few, journal. And then you always have a way to go back and track like where your stuff is in the booklet. So for me, it's a great format, and I'm really excited to kind of show everyone like a general setup of your book. If you look online, like on their Instagram, you'll see some very elaborate ones, and then you'll see some very simple ones. Mine are pretty simple because I'll get distracted if I'm just drawing and doing all this other stuff in there. But if you're the type of person that wants to have these like very beautiful calendars and be someone that I'm very envious of because your illustration is gorgeous and mine looks like a 10-year-old, do it. The journal should be a reflection of like what works best for you. And if you're on the other side of the spectrum, like me, where it's very simple, don't like look at other people's very robust journals and feel like, oh, this isn't for me, mine's inadequate. Like if it's working for you, it doesn't matter if you're like scribbling with 10 different colors, tearing out pages, whatever. Like the whole goal is for it to be a tool to help you better like keep things in your life on task and prioritized. So without further ado, we will dive in. The great thing is you can use any notebook for it. They actually have, I brought one.
I didn't bring one. I'm just gonna observe.
It's all good. So they actually make bullet journal. I always say it's wrong. I think it's Lectrum 1917 is the notebooks that I like. I like them a little bit more than Moleskine just because of the margins and some of the other things in there. But Moleskine's work, just any like notebook you grab. One thing I like is preferably dot grid in these. I don't know, there. Just because I find that it's a lot easier, especially with design stuff, to quickly like, you know, do some sketches. It's kind of like having a ruler built into it. You can also not be cluttered by, I feel like sometimes for me personally, if I have the grid, it's too many squares, like it's too much on the page. So dot, and if it's blank, my words kind of go like this and start to like be all over the place. So having dot grid gives me some structure without being like too much. So they make a bullet journal. There's actually, they're on like version 2 now. So it says bullet journal. The nice thing is it kind of, if you get this one, we'll go over all these things, but it comes with like a little guide in here. And then all the pages, it's like got tips for getting started, has separations for your index page, kind of names some of the stuff that we're going to go over. But literally any book, any notebook will work for this. So let me pull up my notes because I wrote all these things for this. Okay, wonderful. Everyone still hear me? So good?
Here's the,
Oh,
you can use the chat for questions. Just in
oh,
case.
cool. Yeah. All right. So does this pen have a similar shiny texture to Moleskine? Yes. Yeah. It's kind of like a flat black with like a spot gloss in it, it seems like. That's probably just pressed. Kind of. Like this one, well, this one seems pretty flat pink. This one seems shinier, but oh, the paper itself. Sorry, I was like looking on the outside. I'm like, yeah, I guess it's shiny. No, it doesn't. No, I like it. The pages seem a little thicker. I don't know the actual weight, but it's not as shiny. I'm also left-handed, so I have to be like very aware of the type of pens I use because I'll just like smear across it. So I use this pen that this company, Baron Fig, they're like a bunch of designers that started like a workspace company, but they have like this ball roller and it feels nice. It dries pretty quick. But yeah, pens, gel pens are the bane of my existence. Gel pens and whiteboards, worst 2 things for left-handed people. So yeah, the paper is great though. I like it. Okay, cool. So let's dive in. So if everyone, oh yeah, so real quick, I'll just go over. So the bullet journal, like the system that they like explain is like, there's like this, as you can see, it's like wonderful Venn diagram that essentially is the what and the why on each side. And in the middle is bullet journal. So the what of bullet journaling is the system. The system provides simple yet powerful tools and techniques to help you organize what you're doing. And then the why is like the practice. And the practice provides intuitive protocols to help be mindful of why you're doing something. So it's something to just keep in mind whenever you're like creating tasks or structure or something you want to work on is like what you're doing and why you're doing it, and making sure that, you know, you're constantly checking in to make sure those things kind of align, because there's a lot of what's, you know, like, what do I need to do? What do I have to do? But there's not a lot of why put into it. And that's, I think, the biggest distractor sometimes, and hardest thing to like delegate like time management and what I should be working on. So yeah, so the purpose of bullet journaling is to help you live a more intentional life by keeping your actions aligned with your beliefs. Very, very, very beautiful for note taking. All right, cool. So pretty much like one of the main things that makes the bullet journal so powerful is setting up at the beginning of your bullet journal an index page. So I'll put this down here. So an example of this is you're going to set your index page. So if you have like a notebook, it's pretty much like the first few pages of your notebook. And this is what you're going to essentially log all the stuff that you're doing like back at, right? So this is what allows you to have your pages kind of be whatever you need them to be, because at the end of the day or at the end of the week, when you go back to your index page and you go through like the different pages and what you're working on and log them in your index page and say like, oh, cool. Like I did a whole bunch of, like testing and theories on like habit tracking and trying to create new habit systems. And so I like built out like 10-week habit trackers and stuff to like experiment on myself with. And so I would put in the index page like, oh, cool, on page like 10, habit tracker. So it kind of, I brought this little booklet for examples. So you can kind of see here, right? On one side, like you're just going to have the index page, and then you can have like what each thing is on the pages, and then like the page number next to it. I made a note, like they call them collections of what you're working on. They're really great for having like your different classes too. So say on your index page, right, you have, Mario, what class do you teach? 125, right? So you have GPHD, is that right? Yes, still got it. 125, and then that starts say on page 8, right? So actually, let me do this. I can kind of do it while we're working on it. There's my pen. All right, this is going to be very interesting. So we'll go ahead and say, we'll start our actual bullet journal on page 5 here. And so I'm going to write in here. Actually, I'm going to just say bullet journal class. Bullet journal class. Right? And so I write bullet journal class, page 5. So that's my terrible handwriting. And so what we'll do is say then on page 5, you know, we come in here and I decide, oh, we're going to go over these notes, draw in some structuring. This is now a layout page. There's going to be a picture here, blah, 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 fun stuff. Okay. So this is page 5. This is our bullet journal class. Well, a couple days go by. I'm, you know, doing stuff on these other pages. I want to come back and write like a recap of what I learned in bullet journal class. On page 11, I just come back to my index page and say, it's also on page 11, right? So that way it doesn't really matter like what you're doing. So like you can jump around, you can be wherever, but you can always come back to your index page at the beginning and find where that is. So it's great, like I was saying, with classes, because I had like 3 notebooks at one point where I was like, every class will get a new notebook. And then it's like, I forgot that notebook at home this day, or shoot, don't lose this notebook because that's all these ones, right? Instead, you can kind of like have one working notebook, and all you have to do is just make sure you're going back to your index and just updating kind of like what page it's on. And then you can be like, oh, cool, page 5, 11, 10, 16, whatever is there. Oh, thank you, appreciate it. It's one of my favorite colors. Comment on my nails. Yes. Okay, cool. Oh, I also noted that if you're doing any sort of like freelance work or design work, it's also really great for like client projects because you can, your index page, you could like have subcategories of it too. So sometimes for client work in some of mine, I'll break through my index page into like a month. And so I have everything for that client on those pages for that month. Otherwise, you know, you have like, oh man, there's 50 pages for this reoccurring client. Like what project was that probably on? If you break it into months, so say like, we start here, it's October. Year is going by fast. Okay, October, and then go down here, you know, we'll have different things here, and then November, or you can like write it in the margins here. Like I said, don't be afraid to experiment however you want to do it. So that way, when you're working on something, you have a general idea of like, probably like, if you're like, man, where was that thing we talked about in that meeting like last week? Well, if you go to your index page, it's probably not in the client the client notes from October if it's November, right? So you can kind of get a good process of elimination. That way your index page stays very like fluid and quick. And it's not like, now my index page is full of notes where it's like client meeting on this date. Like your index page should just be like quick reference. And that'll help you like track it better. Make sure. Oh yeah, and common collections, like it doesn't, I mean, you can put whatever on here, you know, like planning for trips, like fitness, whatever, like you create like however you want to track these different things. And it doesn't have to be in any sort of like sequential order either. So like if you're going down, don't be afraid to be like, oh, I should have put this up here, like just write the number, like stay fluid with it. Like that's the biggest thing about this, is that it should never be like a hindrance or you feel like, I broke it. Like, no, you can't break it. You just write numbers somewhere else, dog ear a page, whatever, you know, this is your buddy, and your buddy doesn't, you know, look down on you, and it's here to support you. It's just, you know, positive words of affirmation. So your bullet journal is your friend. Cool. Okay. So the next one, so once you get through you got your index, right? Then like a couple pages down, I usually leave for your index. I don't know. I mean, it kind of, you know your handwriting better than anyone else. So if you have beautiful tiny handwriting, like you probably only need like like a page or two. But if you're, you know, gonna be like taking up 2 lines, you need it like bold, because like that's how like sensory, like you need to see stuff. You know, just have extra, like leave yourself enough room for your index to get through a book pretty much. And then so skip through a few, like however many pages you think, you can always go back, and then we're going to create something called the future log. Exciting. I'll let anyone who's here. Does anyone have any questions about that? Oh, how long does one journal last approximately? Oh man. It depends. I'll sometimes have a couple going, like for journaling and stuff. For a work one, for me, it's like probably a few months. But the nice thing is you can like, a lot of these books come with like these stickers that like you put on the spine, like of it. And then you like have like the date. So like I have like tons of journals from like years I can look back on, and I have like cooking recipes and random stuff. Now I'll go flipping through. I'm like, oh, that's how I make scalloped potatoes. That's right. So I don't know, they could last you like a year, could last you 6 months. It really just depends on like how much you're putting into it. And like, I would say if it's for school, you know, maybe say a journal a semester or something, right? Or a journal for like junior year. So I think it's kind of up to you to set the parameters that you want to use it in. And then you'll probably use it in those parameters. So cool. Any other questions? Oh, you only use one journal currently. So I have multiple, but that's just because it's solely because I separate work and personal. Like that's the reason, because I feel like when I open up my personal journal that like I'm like journaling or like writing letters to someone or like doing like whatever that's like more emotion driven, like I'd rather have that separate than opening up a journal that like when I open it, it's like, oh, that's right, I have all this stuff, so like we have to get that. So you can keep them in both, but like I said, at the end of the day, you need to do what like is the best success for your personality and your type. And for me, like if I don't keep those two worlds separate, like they'll just bleed into each other. So I like have to make a point like, this is my home life, this is my work life. But that's the only reason I use it. I used to do it, but I'd end up like getting distracted and flipping back through and go to journal about something and end up talking about like, oh, now I'm thinking about my work stuff. And now that's what's going into my journal rather than like introspection. So yeah, cool. Awesome. Everyone's still good? Awesome. All right, neat. Future log. So I love something like these quotes in here and how they wrote it. Future log is a time machine that allows you to glimpse the life you're working towards. That's awesome. So right after your index pages, future log is a collection of like where you kind of store tasks and stuff that's outside of the current month you're on, because as we'll get into like our monthly and our daily logs. The future log, and I'll show how they have it set up. So it's more than a calendar. It provides an overview and like your commitments to time to help you stay mindful of what you allow into your life. It's great. I love everything about this because it's constantly saying like you have the power to control like what you allow into your space. And so, be mindful of that. So they have it set up here. Kind of on a page like this where they have like the months that are coming up. So we're in October. So your future log would be like November, December, January, February, March, however you want to do it. I'm going to set one up right now. This is how I've set them up in the past. So I say future, but this is how I set my future logs up in the future. All right, travel back in time and tell myself if it worked out. Okay, so I'll usually do it like this and then just like make little notes of things.
What are you doing?
We're doing, I'm like, everyone here is fine. So a few pages later after the index, we make what we call like a future log. And it's where you're going to write down like things that are upcoming that are not in the current month you're in now. Because we'll move on into our monthly and our daily logs. But this is a way because you're constantly going back to your index, right, to update. So you'll constantly be going back to your future log and adding stuff in there as stuff comes up. And it's like a good overview of like upcoming months. And you can like, nope, that's not happening anymore. Or like, oh, this is happening, right? So it's super helpful. It's just like a great overview. Some examples they have in here. Also too, as you add stuff in here and the month becomes current and then you actually have notes on it, you can put page numbers next to the thing in the future log so you can always go back to it. So it's always like, it's just kind of not incestual, it's inception. It's kind of incestual, but inception's a better way of like looking at how everything works here. So examples is like an upcoming seminar, or like you have to like do taxes or sign papers, or it's a great place. Future log is a great place when you get your projects for the semester and you're like, oh, cool, that project's going to be here. This project's here. And you can kind of lay them all out. So upcoming. So you're constantly kind of looking at them being like, I got playing cards. I got brochure. I got postcards. Zine. There we go. I was like, I'm trying to remember all these. Perfect. And so let's see. So that's the future log. We can come back to that, but yeah, like I said, let's see, November. I'll just write a couple of things. I don't know what I have in November. So, here's one, Thanksgiving. Yeah, probably gonna have to do something on that day. Like trip to LA. Oh, that's my phone. Just grabbing phones, looking at calendars.
Wait, so does it matter if your future log is non-chronological? Because how can you know what order the future will be in?
So, man, now we're getting like deep. So it's just monthly. So it starts in like the next month that you be. So I set them up usually like this, like November, December. You don't have to go like into like next spring. It's probably a good rule of thumb to put like 3 months out, because
so
like,
it's just kind of like a loose like overview of the year.
Yep.
By month.
yep, exactly. And so and you can like put stuff in there as it comes up, and then as that month hits, we'll set up the monthly log. You'll pull those things into the monthly log, and then those things will come into the daily log. So it's like a trickle down. So we're starting at like the macro hierarchy. Yeah. Trickle down tasks. Cool. So yeah, so it's like trip to LA on this date, right? And then, if this ends up being like, oh, I had a meeting on that day and in LA, and then, I'll put the page numbers that it was on, 15, 17. So you can always come back to it and update it. So we'll circle back on that, but we're going to dive into your monthly log. So you can future log, like I said, it's probably do it a few months out, leave enough space, like maybe like 2 pages or so you could really fill it out if you need to. And then we're going to start getting into the real meat and potatoes. So we're going to set up our monthly log. And so it's pretty much, your monthly log is like a task list and a timeline kind of together. It allows you to reset, reprioritize, and recommit to the things that you choose to allow in your life. Reoccurring theme here, things you choose to allow in your life. So on one side, at the top of the page, I'm trying to do it in a way that like you guys can actually see, but I'm not sure. You just put the month. So we're going to do October 2021. Yeah. And we're going to do it on both sides. And I will hold it up for everyone in the room. 2021. Okay, cool. So you have a page, one side, October 2021, other side, October 2021. So on the left side, we're going to write, just going down the page, there's 31 days. 1, 2, 3. We're going to write them down kind of like just going down like the days of the month. Oh. So kind of like this. So I'm writing the days going down the side of the page here. Give me a sec. Yeah. Picked like the longest month. Couldn't it be 29, 28, leap year? Oh, I almost skipped a day. Every one day is the longest month. Okay, cool. So once you have all of them there, sweet. Now, right next to it, use my phone, not Kit's phone for a calendar. Okay, so October started on a Monday. So then we would say, that's pretty cool. That makes it real easy. So the next to it, you just put like the letter of the day. So, okay, I gotta think on this. I'm gonna do it wrong. Okay, so no, so future log pages are only at the beginning of that future log section, and you'll see when we kind of go, we'll go back to it. But yeah, the future log is right after the index. Those are always going to be like at the beginning. Okay, cool. So now going down inside, we have the days and the month. No problem. Right there. Perfect. So the left side is your timeline. And it's kind of like where you would, it's kind of like a traditional calendar where you can keep events. So you can put stuff there, like when you have something in your future log, right? Then you come to that month because it's the month ahead. And when you, at the beginning of the month, when you lay out your timeline, right? You can go to the future log and be like, oh, these are the things I have on this date coming up this month. And you bring it into now your monthly overview, right? So yeah, so you're taking from that big overview you had, if it's still relevant, because some things, you get to that month, you're like, I'm not doing that anymore, right? Pull it into your monthly log, and you could write like, oh, what day is Thanksgiving on? It's the third Thursday. I'm gonna say it's on the 18th.
No, I think it's like the 25th.
I'm gonna say it's on the 25th. I don't know. My mom just tells me when it is. She just tells me when I need to be over there. So yeah, she's like, no, oh yeah, you're coming, right? I'm like, yes, this Thursday for sure. Okay, so yeah, so you can write stuff. A great way to like look at the timeline, because we have calendars and stuff, is to make sure you're migrating stuff in your future log over here, so you can just kind of take a glance. But also too, it's great to log things like after they happen. So like you can, like if you had a meeting or a call or like an event you went to or something, it's great to come back to like the beginning of the month and just on that date, like log that and say what happened, because so many things go on. You're like, hey, when did I do that thing? When I have that coffee meeting with so-and-so? Like it's really easy to forget. And if you just go back to the beginning, like after something happened in the calendar, just log it there. You can just like, oh, boom, it's right there. It's a real quick overview. So, yep. Okay, cool. So then on the other side, so this side, maybe if I just start doing this really big. Time. Cool. Is this like way more legible if I just write like timeline really big on the page? Cool. So this side's the timeline, and then this side is the task list. There we go. Cool. So left side is the timeline, right side is the task list. So this is the side to kind of prioritize like monthly tasks. So if there's any like tasks you had on your future log of something that like you have to get done, like taxes, or if you wanted to track like when your car payment is, or like these different things that are like monthly things, rent due, right? You can like have these here and they can be like in categories. I like to break things up because if it's just a bunch of like bullets like down, like it just kind of all looks the same. Kind of like, when you start working with type and copy, it just starts to look part of the design. So spell check is usually a designer's best friend. I tell people all the time, like, if you're sending me copy, like make sure it's right, because by the time it's getting into the design, it usually looks like image to me. I'm like, yeah, the layout looks great. Block can attest to this. We're always like, is this spelled right? I'm like, I don't know, but the layout's really good. What was the other one recently? Smoky. Yeah, we learned Smoky. It does not have an E. Smokey the Bear, they used the E to differentiate from the word smoky. So if you try to spell it Smokey the Bear, you're actually wrong. Because yeah. That's what making t-shirts and then having a fun Halloween pun gets you. We wish you a smoky Halloween, and we're like, I was like, is smoky Y or EY? He's like, I think it's Y. 10 minutes later, I learned the history of why smoky has an EY. Okay, so anyways, tangent. So I like to write, like maybe categories like on this, right? Like home or work or relationships, because you should schedule time with your partner to do stuff because that's healthy, and don't just obsess about design all the time. That's not healthy. Cool. So then you like in there, you can have like different categories for like home, right? Like I know like rent is due on the 4th. Or anything else you might have like home related, right? Like say you have a doctor's appointment or stuff like that. So work, you can do it. You know, everyone in here probably has school as something they need to do. So your task list is like your main kind of big overview monthly thing. So which usually you're pulling down from your future log, right? So if you have that project that we said is due in December and December comes, you should probably then migrate it to your task list, right? And you're like, overview of the month, these projects are due, and you have the date. So, you know, you're moving like it along mentally as you're working forward. Like it's a great way. Like I mentioned, anyone who has ADHD knows that object permanence is something you suffer from. And if you don't see it all the time, it doesn't exist. Essentially, like babies, the peekaboo game, like when they're children don't have like object permanence, or like they disappeared. It's the same thing. So if you have tasks that are constantly visible and you're pulling down and migrating along the way as you're progressing, you're always going to be able to stay on top of stuff, because it's never like, oh yeah, I wrote that down 30 pages ago and never looked back at it, right? So it's really great to move it along. It's also really great when you're having to manage multiple projects and timelines, because by nature, something's always going to slip, because there's never a balance, right? It's always something's due, something's not due, and you're always going to be working on the one that's probably due now more than the one that's due later. So this is a great way to like progress everything with you. So at least you're not forgetting about stuff, and you can update it and make changes along the way.
Christy, do you find that in your task list, sometimes you have to break down the task, maybe too big of a task on that right-hand side, and you have to kind of itemize it out a little bit more so you can see how you can practically work that into your schedule?
Yeah, so a lot of that is kind of I'll get onto on our like our daily log, is where you can really like get granular with things. So if it's a task that requires like multiple things, you can always sub task it out. Like if it's like, let's see, I'm just trying to think of like a project, right? So let's say, do you guys still do the campaign project?
Which one?
Sorry, I did the not the PSA, the Architectural Institute one, and you had to make like the poster, a takeaway, and like an object or something.
That was your team.
That was nice. I think so. It's all a blur. I blacked out. Yeah. So in that, right? If there's a project, right, like, and you want it in your future log, like, so you kind of know what's going on, you could say like that project, and then bullet underneath. You could say like poster, takeaway, web page, or whatever it is that project, and just, but in the future log and kind of the monthly like overview, try to stay like more macro with it, because if you're too granular like all along the way, it's like anxiety the whole, I mean, it could potentially be like, oh, now my pages are just full all the way. You want to like, if you really want to break that down, that would be like, oh, I got this project assigned to me, so I'm going to go in on page 10 and write that entire project out, right? And then go back to my index page and say, hey, I broke down this project on page 10, right? But on future log, when it's coming up, when it's due, but you get granular on like a section, that way, like I said, the macro and the overview stuff is more so like just being on top of like what's coming down, and then you can deep dive into it like on another page. But yes, great call. New task, future log, schedule month. Okay, cool. Great thing about this task list over here is part of this whole bullet journaling that you will see is reviewing and then reprioritize and moving stuff forward. So when you get to like the new month, a great thing to do is go back to your task list, like the big project on the previous month, or anything popped up towards the end of it, and migrate it forward, right? So like if something that you were working on last month, you didn't finish, and it's like a personal project or a home project or whatever it is, migrate. Just don't beat yourself up about it. You know, just be like, oh, yep, didn't get that one done next month. Have the whole like what and why, right? Like, why am I doing this thing? Like, what am I doing and why am I doing it? If it was like this project where you're like, man, I really want to do this big illustration, and, you know, you just focused on it. You get to the end of the month and you're like, nah, there's no way I'm going to do that. Like, I'm just like, I don't have time for it. Like, just exit out. Like, don't bring it forward, you know, let that be there, and you can always come back to it another time. Or if you started it, but you're still working on it, move it forward and put it on your task list as like something you want to do for this month. But just keep it moving and like constantly be assessing what you're working on and making sure you're working on things that are meaningful, like in your life, are progressing you in the direction of like your future, your career that like you want to be doing. And anything that doesn't fall into that, just scratch it out. Okay, neato. Next thing, we're gonna go into our daily log. So the daily log is pretty much like what you're gonna be working in like every day. And it's a daily log, but that's kind of like the broad coverage of just like all your other pages of like notes and stuff. So you can just like start right after like the monthly one. It's funny when you start doing this, like I look forward to the end of the month and like the beginning of next month because it's up a new page. It's like refreshing because you're like, new page, like new task, like X out the old ones. Like, what am I working on? Like it's, yeah, exactly. Like it's like a reset, new month. You're just like, oh yeah. Oh, awesome. Thank you for dropping that knowledge in $6 dotted grid journals at Michael's and Hobby Lobby. Awesome. Yeah, if anyone's got like tips and hacks on where to get stuff for their favorite notebooks, like share that around with everyone. Cool. So the daily log is designed to declutter your mind and keep you focused throughout the day. Beautiful. So it's what they call the workhorse or of the bullet journal. So simply write down, I change this all the time too. Like, let's make sure there's nothing too spicy in here. This is my personal one. You're like, oh yeah, that was a sad day for Curtis. No, I'm just kidding. So I change, yeah, I'm actually gonna grab my work one. I just realized like, I don't know, maybe I'm like, what? My work one's like really dark and my like home like stretch one's like very bright and vibrant. It's not a bad thing. It's funny. It's I have to separate things completely. I literally pick two different ends of the spectrum of color to separate it. Okay, cool. So, oh yeah, some of the newer ones like actually this is a good example. So I was saying like they make like a bullet journal one. So this is like the first edition that they ever did. It's thinner. The other one they did, like they made like the pages thicker. It comes with like, it's like beautiful like guides on like, so like the dot grids, it shows you like how long like X amount of dots are and stuff. So it's really great for drawing. And then it comes with like these like stickers. I'll show you an example of one. It's like monthly stickers. So you can just like, so yeah. So like, it's just like a strip of the days and like you just put it. It's fun. It's decorative. Yeah, so like I'll change all the time like how I write the date. So it's just like Wednesday and the date, or I'll draw it really big, or really small. So it doesn't really matter. You just want to daily log. So today is Wednesday the 13th. So cool. Boom. So you can just like say like Wednesday the 13th in there. And then so pretty much throughout the day, you just like kind of write down things as they bubble up. And we have like different like icons you use in bullet journaling to rapid logs. So this is like the core of bullet journaling is rapid logging. So it's really like anytime something comes up, like a task or something you think of or whatever, like you're able to just open up to the page you need to, jot it down, either assess it at the time being, think about it, like write on it, or just know that you got it down so it doesn't butterfly off and you forget about it and never think about it, right? So the whole point of this, why it's so fluid, why there's not as many like hard parameters on stuff, is so you can constantly be rapid logging stuff as it arises. Because as we know, sometimes like things just come out of left field and you got to get it down somewhere, or you're like, oh, I'll remember that, I'll come back to it, and you will. Okay, so each of the bullets in bullet journaling kind of represents like one of three categories. So a dot, this is going to be like tasks. So like tasks are things we have to act on. This is just for everyone here, so you can see it, because we're going to be talking about like this stuff more going. So. Okay.
The blue one over here works
Blue
on
one?
this edit board.
Perfect. Yay. Okay. All right, these are tasks. So have to act. So things we have to do, right? And then we have a little dash for notes. One, two. And then the last one, open circle. Open circle. And to experience. Sweet. Okay, cool. Now you just have a reference in the room, so it's not like me just over here. And then everyone else will be able to see this. I'm coming back. Okay. So we have, let's write this down, bullet. And feel free as you develop your own bullet journal, if you want to use like hearts and squiggles and whatever you want to, that speaks to your soul and represents the way you want to take notes, do that. Because you have to look at it every day and you should do what you enjoy to look at. Number 2. Okay, so don't worry so much about like the wording here, but we have a little bullet. It's task. That's straight dash line is notes, and the open circle is events. This too, if you want. Nope. There we go. Sorry. So filled in dot, dash line, open circle. Okay, cool. So examples for like the tasks, right, as you're working through is like, I have to finish this assignment today, right? And then under there, like say, like I'll subcategory it. So I'm going to say bullet journal class. And then like under that thing that I'm going to have to do, I'll make some notes like bring Bujos. That's short for bullet journal. Bring Bujos. Be on time. And then I guess this is technically an event, but and then once I'm done with it, I can go exit out. Cool. So tasks, notes, and events. And then you can kind of like categorize this like however you want, right? And this is where, Mario, you would like do a breakout, you know, if you want on a page to say like the task is like this assignment, right? And then you can like note everything that's required under there. And you can like put little asterisks or stars next to things that are like call outs, you know, or pieces that expand. But then that way you're able to like not feel like, oh, I have to cram it all in the future log, or I have to like fit it on this page under this space. You have as many pages as you want to like expand on that project. And then, you know,
I like how you had, how you're saying you just have a page dedicated to just completely granularizing that project down.
it's great. And then you just go back and you just in your index just log exactly like what it was that you did, what page, and then you can always go back there as you're progressing. Awesome. Cool. So that is like the like essential setup of the bullet journal. Those are, you have your index where we're going to constantly go back and update what we're working on. Then we have our future logs where kind of like corresponding months. We have like the big things that are happening, projects, things we got to remember. That then when we get into like our monthly logs where we have our timeline and our task list, we pull from the future log into the task list or the timeline, and then we're logging things as they happen. And then from the monthly, we go into our daily logs where we're figuring out how to accomplish the things in the monthly log, right? So that's pretty much the overview and like how you just kind of break down those categories. And then you have the little icons. There's more, like we're gonna cover a couple for my grade, but it's kind of cute. Like in this book, they give you like a little section so you can just like draw your own new icons and label them. So you can have that like in the index or an area in your page where you make your own like legend. So that's all this is great and wonderful. And it's like, wow, like this keeps me organized. But there's another step in here that really makes like rapid logging and task management more powerful. And that's like actually like reflecting on the stuff you write down. It's one thing to just be like absorbing and like just getting it all out. And you're like, yeah, I got everything down. Emily Masterson wrote like how many volumes of notes over the course of her time here, right? Like she had so many notes, but I know for a fact she went back over the notes and, you know, reviewed stuff. So that's like a big part of it. If you just write stuff down, you're really just kind of like consuming and regurgitating. But you want to be able to like be like, the whole reason we're doing this, right, is to be like present of the what and why of the things that we're putting in here and making sure that they're constantly like pushing us in the like the right direction to accomplish the things we want to do. So you can kind of do this like whenever you want. Like there's a few ways to go back. I'm not the best at this part because things get busy, but like I'm constantly working on it. And like, and so don't like I've been doing it for 7 years and I still struggle with these next steps of it just because it's so easy to just not do it. You're like, oh, I know what I'm doing. And then every time I come back to it and actually follow it, I'm like, why do I stop doing this every time? This is so much better. So morning reflection. So review previous day's logs, right? Before you dive into your day, sit down with your notebook and I'll highlight these. Look through your previous pages. Has anything changed, become irrelevant, or a priority? Have any new insights or ideas surfaced? So it's great that you wrote everything down from the previous day and you had your tasks and you got everything down and literally like you could do the you know, write subtitles for Mario's class because you took down every word he said and it was perfect and transcribed back gloriously. However, you need to go through and review that because when you're going to set up what you need to do for today, you need to see if yesterday was success or if there's stuff that needs to be carried over. So let's see. So let's see. I can pull up. Yeah, I can pull up this one. Cool. So you look through your previous day, right? So this was Tuesday. And so on my notes here, right, like I have Tuesday and I have like a bunch of things that I was working on, right? And then you can notice some of them are X'd out and some of them have like this like little like kind of arrow thing through it. Those are ones I migrate to today. And so some tasks, like it's, you're never gonna, I mean, sorry, I'm not gonna say never because I don't like to deal in absolutes. Only cis deal in absolutes. But you're rarely gonna accomplish everything that you set up for yourself to accomplish like the previous day, right? And that's okay. All you have to do is migrate it. So say I have a task right here. Finish image of block and I on canoe. It's just first thing that came to my brain block. So I didn't finish this image of block and I on a canoe today. So I'm going to just do this little symbol. I'll try to draw big. Like this little like arrow symbol. I'm just gonna migrate it to the next day. So let's put it on board. Yeah. Okay. So finish task, right? X. That one's done. It's all good. Did not finish the task. Finish. Not finished. Migrated. Boom. Migrate. This one, task. Not. So, kind of like when you're reviewing, they're like the main things you just gotta just keep in mind. Like, is it done? Did you finish the task? X. If you finish the task, throw an X through it. If it needs to be migrated to the next day, throw a little migration symbol on it. If the task is no longer relevant anymore and you don't need to do it, strike it out. It doesn't need that way. When you're going back through, the little X's of completion don't get confused with like irrelevant things anymore. So just strike it out completely. And so, yeah, so go through the previous day, see if anything's changed, see if anything needs to be updated, and then set up today's log, right? So now you've taken a moment to think and reflect on your goals for the day, set up your daily log and just rapid log as much as you think you need to do like for the day, right? You can use like a little star asterisk to signify like something that's like important for that day, right? And put it next to the task. But it's really good like in the morning to just like get everything out ready. Like it could be post like meditation or breakfast or reading in the morning, whatever you're doing, just like before you go sit down in like your workspace or like in class, and that's the first time you pull this out to look at it, do it in a better like mental state where you're like, yep, it's fresh, I'm good. I haven't like had someone say some wild stuff to me on the way to school or cut me off or had a bad phone call. You know what I mean? Like as soon as you get up, you go through, you set up your journal, like you're in probably some of the best headspace you'll be in for the day. So that's when you really want to get out like the things you're wanting to get done for that day in your daily log, right? Any questions?
Is that the same time you do your reflection or do you do it at the end of the day?
I usually do my journaling like at the end of the day before bed. I don't know why. Sometimes in the morning, but in the morning it's usually like I'm thinking about like all the other stuff. And so at the end of the day is usually when I'm like take a moment, if I read or something, and then kind of just like emotional dump of like all the stuff from the day. So
to touch on what you were saying, like I like to have Brainstorm Pages like in between the logs because I just need a space that's like ugly where I can like get all the shit out of my head, and then I'll just like that's like when I wake up in the morning and feel chaotic, and then I have a cup of coffee and some oatmeal, and I'm like, all right, let's take a look at this.
Let's do it.
So yeah.
That's perfect. Cool. So the morning reflection is the first of kind of 2 daily reflections you'll do, which I mean really helps like clarify your plan of action and allows you to move through your day with like focus, purpose, and direction. Right? When you go outside in the morning, you kind of have a game plan. Even if things sway, just like the act of like saying like this is what I'm going to do, and I'm feeling good about these things, and this is what I want to accomplish. You know, just sets you kind of on like a good path to be like productive and like kind of like feeling empowered in yourself and like stoked and ready to go carpe the diem. Cool. So throughout the day, you know, as you're in your journal and like updating tasks or rapid logging or like starting a new page of notes, or you take a phone call with someone and you want to jot that down, right? Like you can be moving through and just, you know, you start your daily page here. Next thing you know, like this becomes a project page. This becomes like, I got really inspired to like draw a house and stuff. So you can do art on a page, right? It doesn't matter. And then, you know, you can keep going back like, oh, something popped up, back to my like daily notes. I got to add this in here. You're kind of just like going through and like I said, rapid logging, like just consuming. Make sure that you keep like your notebook close by, just like throughout the day on you. It's great, you know, generally in school, like you have a backpack and not usually leaving it places. So, you know, quick pull something out if you ever need to jot something down. And like I said, it can be used for anything. Like if you just need to have a moment to like quick journal some stuff, situation, notes, something you gotta remember, appointment, whatever. And then just like update your tasks as you're going through your day, like as you complete them. Because if you don't like, you don't want to leave it all to the end of the day because you got to remember where certain things were at. But we kind of touched on it. Tasks essentially have five states where you have an incomplete, which is the dot. You have the complete, which is like the X. You have migrated, which is, you know, the little arrow or the greater than sign. There's another one. Once again, I don't use all of these like as much, but the less than sign on something is what they call like a scheduled event, where it's like you move something to your future log. I don't usually encounter stuff where I'm writing it and then putting it back in my future log, but that is something that if like an appointment or a task or something pops up for like the next month and you're like, oh, this thing, boom, like less than sign because I put it in my future log and now that's there. You know, you just have the icons for it. And then, like I said, irrelevant is just completely scratched out. So as you're going through the day, just make sure that, you know, as things are happening in real time, you know, you're updating your journal in real time with that as well. And then evening reflection, right? Cool. So this is kind of at the end of the day. And I mean, end of the day is relative to like every person differently. So it could be you brushed your teeth and you're in your jammies and you're ready to go to bed and it's by your nightstand, or it could be like when you get home, you know, when you're no longer doing any like work tasks for the day and like you're about to just like unwind. End of the day is you pick where it is. Is it like the end or is it like was it like metaphorical end of the day? So but what you're going to do is review your daily log and then X off the things that you've completed and accomplished, because that helps acknowledge your progress. Because once again, I'm going to keep going back to it. The whole point of this is establishing your what and why. Like, what are you doing and why are you doing it? And how is it like leading to a more purposeful life for you? So seeing the things at the end of the day X'd off that you've accomplished is like a giving yourself an acknowledgement of your progress and that you did something and that you accomplished another day of being a human and making it through the simulation. So it's a very important like piece to do. And then kind of curate your content. So it's like delegate, refine, or eliminate any task. the main thing is like, so you can take more time for like fewer and meaningful things. So reflecting on the tasks and migrating and like really just, if something's not important anymore, just scratch it out. Like we'll go through a little flow chart on this, but you know, I think a lot of times we carry around like like task baggage of like things that we need to get done. It's almost like your closet that you never clean, or that drawer in your kitchen where you just kind of throw stuff in. Like you're constantly like adding to this like task list, right? That you're things you got to do and things you have to get done, and I have to do it, and there's this and this. And when you really like go back through and pull everything out and dissect it, like you probably get rid of so many of those things. And just like the act of having these things written down and then scratching them out, like it's like freeing like a space in your brain, because our brains are so wonderful and so like terrible to us at the same time, where they just like occupy space with so much stuff. And sometimes you don't even realize like subconsciously how much stuff you're carrying around if you don't ever say, I'm done with that. This is not something I'm doing, right? And it's okay to like say that and come back to it later on. But like it's almost more detrimental to carry around that thing that like, no, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get to that. I'm going to do it. Just like be like, I'm not doing it this month. Like I'm going to redo the yard next month. Like, you know, or like, hey, maybe in 6 months when the weather's good, but I'm not going to keep saying each day, like, I'll get to that this weekend. I'll get to that this weekend. Because like you're occupying space in your brain, and as your brain's going through like everything in survival mode that like you have to get done, it's going to keep hitting that. And subconsciously you're going to be like, oh, I'm stressed, right? And it's just because you're carrying around task baggage, right? So just get rid of this task baggage, go back through and eliminate these things that aren't useful. So then you have time and you make space for fewer, more meaningful things. So,
You know, to add on to that, just even like how you're organizing your life through this, it allows your mind to kind of relax. Because if there's sort of, you know, you get that anxiety of stuff, you know, you're going to do it.
Yep.
But there's just no concreteness to it. And if you know, the night before say, okay, here's what I'm going to do tomorrow, it lets you sleep a little bit sounder, because
100%.
you're not waking up at 4 in the morning going, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that. You've already sort of planned it out. You know that you're already kind of addressed it.
Yep.
Scheduled it.
yeah, because your brain will just stay on. It'll just keep going.
You can trust yourself.
Yeah. It's like, no, you're not going to remember that. I always tell people, like, if it doesn't exist if it's not written down. You know, like everyone, you know, has something they want to do or something. And, you know, one of my friends that will come to me and ask like, hey, I'm trying to do this. Like, I really want to do this. Like, how should I go about this? Or like anyone consulting. The first thing I ask is like, have you written this down? Well, no. Okay. Well, then it's not a thing. You might as well like have no idea at this point, because it's not written down. And, you know, because once you write it down, you are now accountable to at least yourself. That's why like it's always great to like, if you want to do something, like live in the uncomfortable and like post it out and like make yourself accountable to like strangers in the world on your social or whatever, right? Like in the sense of like accountability is like huge for like a driver to get something done. And if it's just in your head, you're going to beat yourself up and eat up. But at least if you get it down on paper, you are accountable to at least yourself, because it exists. Like it's out there, you know, and it's the first step to like accomplishing anything. It's just like getting it out, right? So you can timetable it to like be done whenever you want, right? But at least it's there, it exists. You're saying you're going to do this. So clear your head. So this is still an evening reflection. Capture any new or lingering thoughts to help you decompress. To what Mario said, go to sleep knowing everything is written down and waiting for you to return to it fresh during your morning reflection, right? So this is why there's that kind of two, I don't want to say two-party system. I want to say two-piece system. There's the morning reflection and then there's the evening reflection, right? And, you know, going back to this whole thing, right? It's all kind of like interconnected, right? From the index to the future log, to the monthly log, to the daily log, to the morning reflection, to the evening reflection, right? Like it's all carrying forward and progressing you along and kind of like keeping you on track with what you're trying to accomplish. So you get up in the morning, this is what I'm gonna do. At the end of the day, this is what I did. This is what's important. This is what I'm gonna do tomorrow. Get up, morning log. This is what I'm gonna do. And it's just kind of like this great cycle of like productivity, but like in a positive sense. It's not like the just grind and hustle your face off productivity, like make 100 freaking lists and like, it's like, no, this is like healthy, harmonious, like task management in it. So, beep, 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 beep. Oh yeah. These 2 daily reflections help you get in the habit of taking the time to make sure you're focusing on things that add value to your life. That at the end of the day is what's most important and why we do things to better our lives, to add value. Everyone's going to school to add value to your life, have a design career. Cool. Monthly reflection. So this is why I was saying at the end of the month, I get excited to make the new month, because you kind of do like the big daily and nightly like reflection. So you do a monthly one. So you go back, you review your month and your future log, right? And then at the end of the month, flip through all the pages in the month that's gone by and look to see if there's any open tasks. And if they are, like, assess them. Oh, didn't check that one off. Yay, low endorphin hit. I did it. Yay, my brain's happy. Or you migrate them, or you just X them out, right? And then you check your future logs to see if anything has come current, right? So future log, we're saying these are the things over the next few months that are going to be coming up. We get to that month, we check the future log. Oh, that's coming up this month. Boom, put that in this next month, right? So we're just constant, like just pulling and migrating in this like wonderful little ecosystem that you've created here. It really becomes like a living thing. It's kind of crazy. And not like the Evil Dead book that like Necronomicon. It's not the Necronomicon. And then after you do that, just filter your content. So reflect on your responsibilities and try to identify like what is and what is not adding value to your life, one task at a time. And then use these 3 questions to help decide onto what to push forward with and what to filter out. Sorry, what to push forward with, what to filter out, and what to just leave behind. So I told you it's like this little flow chart thing. It's pretty cute. So the filter, these are the 3 questions that you kind of are gonna look back on your monthly reflection. You could even use this kind of in like your evening reflection on stuff, but is it vital, right? This applies to crucial things like rent and taxes, right? Like, is it vital? Yeah, it's vital I pay rent. Like, can't just cross that one out and keep it pushing, right? It's like, nah, I don't want to do that one anymore. Well, that'll have some consequences. Does it matter? And so does this task matter to you or a loved one? Which I love that they like added that in there, because like I said early on, make time for other people in your life. Don't just obsess on one thing. And then, are there any consequences? Meaning, what would happen if you never did this? The answer is nothing, probably not worth your time. And I think that's like an honest question that we don't have with ourselves enough on things. Like, worst case scenario, or like, what if I didn't do this? Is there consequences? No. I set this. Like, I said I wanted to do this thing and I didn't do it. But like, what happens if I don't? You know, you got to kind of like get out of your head on like setting these elaborate like things you want to accomplish. Like, yes, you should be like pushing yourself and improving and doing stuff, right? But like, don't let that become like a stressor and anxiety in your life, because at the end of the day, something that you set yourself to do that you don't do, the only consequence is it's this like the Ouroboros, the snake eating itself, right? Like, you kind of like, you said it, like, don't let it like stress you out. If you're not going to do it, just don't do it. So there's kind of this little like flow chart. Let's see if you guys can see it. I'll hold it here for it. Sorry, this is like interesting trying to do it on phone. There we go. So there's this flow chart. I'll hold there for a second if anyone wants to screen grab it or look.
I can take a picture and post it to the Discord as well.
Perfect. I'm leaving this with you, by the way. So I'm going to donate this little pamphlet with my little like highlighting and little notes and doodles in it. So you guys can like reference this in grids. So like if you guys want, if anyone's got any questions or you want to ever come back to it or kind of like run a workshop on your own, you got this little booklet to go through. But essentially how the filter works is you have a task, flow chart down to, is it vital? Yes, migrate it to the next month. Rent, migrate that to like your monthly task of what you have to do. Like, I don't know, take your dog to the vet. Like that's probably something you should do and not keep putting off, right? So migrate it either to your monthly log, your future log, or a custom log that you've made, right? So it's all about end of the month, migrate to beginning, or sorry, evening time, migrating forward on a smaller level. Is it vital? You're unsure. We'll move down to the second question. Does it matter to you or a loved one? Yes. Migrate it, right? Not sure if it's vital. Well, does it matter? Yes. Migrate that thing, right? Okay. Is it vital? Does it matter? No, don't migrate it. Like if it's not, you're not sure if it's vital, or no, it's not vital and it doesn't matter. Nope. Don't carry that baggage. Throw it out, right? If you're unsure if it matters, bring in the third question. Are there consequences? No, don't migrate it. It's useless, right? Consequences, yes. Go back up to, is it vital, right? If you don't do this thing, you're not sure if it matters, but there are consequences. You don't do it, you should probably reassess that and move it along, right? So it's just kind of like a 3-step simple process to just attack any kind of like question or anything that you have of vital, does it matter, consequences. And honestly, like it's a really good philosophy just to apply to other things in your life.
Should we clean up my apps on my phone?
Right? It's one of those funny things when you start like, you know, it's kind of like you read something or you hear someone talk about and you just like hear it and you're like, yeah, that makes so much sense. Like, how did I not know it? But like, you don't even think about it until you do it. You start applying it to things. You're like, oh yeah, like stuff is just really simple, stripped down to its most basic form, right? Point line plain. Woo! Call back. So yeah. So that is pretty much how you set up the bullet journal. So real quick recap. You can use any book. All you gotta do is have a section where you set up your index page. The index page is where we keep track of where everything is throughout the book. So you're just constantly coming back and writing the page number associated with whatever that is. You can break that into months. You break it into collections, you know, however you're doing stuff. And then we have the future log after the index page, which is, you know, starting the next month of when you start your, you know, bullet journal. And, you know, a few months out, just kind of like what you have coming up. Then we get into our monthly log where we have our timeline, which is just kind of the overview where you can put things that are upcoming or remember things that happened, meetings you had, you know, you can, I met someone cute on this day. Yay, heart. And then you have your task list on the other side where you have, you know, the things for that month you're trying to accomplish, which future log, those are the first things you pull into that when that month comes. And then, you know, anything else that has come up when you're doing reflections. Then you go into your daily log where we have our morning and our evening reflections. So get everything out. You have the different ways to sort your tasks. Essentially, tasks or things you write in there live in the 5 states of incomplete or finished, migrated, not needed, or what's the one that they always do? Logged, sorry, scheduled. I don't use that one, so forgive me, that one's a hard one.
That's surprising to me. So do you just then like use your phone calendar for keeping track of, because that's my issue with the bullet journal always, is I like write everything down. I don't keep it in my phone. So if I'm in October and I have things that I want to record for January, like that's where I can get kind of thrown off in terms of keeping it organized.
I
But
think
you're saying like you would just put all of that in your future log and then keep moving it forward.
no, I just don't use the scheduled icon. Like, I just don't like,
Oh.
yeah. Sorry. Yeah, 100% schedule. There's just like the different states of, like where on a task you'd go through and then you'd be like, lesson sign, it's scheduled in my future log. I just don't do that often. I'm usually like, I'll like call it out or put it there generally. I just like, I'm sure I do it sometimes, but it's not one of those things where it's like, I do this all the time if something pops up. So that's why I just don't think about it as much. It's not my default action in there. I try to like plan out as much of the stuff I have like upcoming. And my schedules are pretty like dialed. They're made for me essentially. Like, I don't know, you can ask Block, like, I don't know what I have unless Rose tells me like the meetings I have in my calendar is just full. So I'm like, what am I doing? So that's kind of like, for me, I just don't like migrate stuff that way. It's usually more like going this way and reflecting back than like, oh, I'm going to take the time to move this here. And then, you can use the icons of task notes and events, but you can always use your own. And then, reflect in the morning, get everything out, look at the day before, check everything, make sure you did that. And in the evening, go through and make sure everything's, X'd out that you accomplished, give yourself a high five. It's actually a great podcast you just listened to about giving yourself a high five in the mirror every morning. It's really great. It's positive affirmation. You don't realize it, but like the act of it, it's like makes you feel good. So do that. And then just, constantly as you're rapid logging and doing it, just checking, doing check-ins with yourself on the things that you're putting in there. Like, is it vital? Does it matter? Is there consequences, right? Because you can really declutter your life and what you're doing and allow way more space in your brain for remembering homework assignments or stupid quotes from movies that you could recall for the next 20 years. So, yeah. Oh, hold on. Sorry. There's questions. My bad. Is there a QR code on the back of the booklet? Or am I nuts? Yeah, there is. I think it just takes you to the website though. The guy that who like made this method. Hi, thanks for coming. So he made it like he's very like open source about stuff. So like he partnered with like the notebook thing to like make one. He sells them, but like it's still pretty much the same price as like those notebooks. But all the information you can go on his website, and he literally like it's all free, just broken out. So he struggled with ADD and dyslexia, and so just constantly had problems in school. And then was like, I'm gonna figure out how my brain works, and like create this system, and then just gives out all the info for free. They have an Instagram where people are like posting. People do like elaborate, amazing stuff. Like people like jot down these wild calendars, like people are tracking like cycles and all sorts of stuff. It's really like the stuff that people have used this to do is phenomenal. So yeah, it's great. Bring up the flow chart. Yep, sorry. And then like I said, I will leave this here. And so Kit can like actually like send around pictures and that. Sorry. Yeah. And then do you have page X, Y, or Y to Z dedicated to? Oh, no. I think what you are asking is like, does it have to be sequential? Like, does page like 3 through 10 has to be dedicated to like the daily tasks and then the evening reflection? No, not at all. The reflection too, like it's kind of just you're reflecting on your daily task page that you made for that day. And it can mix through like and it should. It's probably gonna like as you get more comfortable with bullet journaling. For me, like I'm so like I like things to have order and sequence. I'm a systems and process building person. So like it's so hard for me to like break this. Like that's why it's so many notebooks. Like I didn't work for me because I'm like, oh, I have to fall into these structures. And then I literally had to like strip everything except like the sandbox to then build my own. So kind of being out of order was hard for me at first. And now like I can't imagine being back in a structure where it's like, this is a calendar for the week. And you have Monday is page 1, Tuesday is page, I'd be like, oh my God, can't do this. So no, definitely doesn't have to be in order. That's kind of goes back to your index page and is why you have that. So on your index page, you can write, like, for example, what I would do just in regards to daily logs is say it was October. I would go back through at the end of the month and then look at every one of my daily log pages, like of, you know, the week. And some of them will have multiple days of the week on there because you might not need a whole page. So you might like, you know, page 10 through 15 or 10 through 20 was what I use for October daily logs. And I would put that under just like October and then write page numbers for October. And in my brain, I go, okay, those are all my daily logs in October. And then underneath that is like the collection. So if I had like illustration idea for a new box we were designing or something, like I would have like that called out, you know, new box idea or X page number, right? You know, did some reading like and noted like while I was reading a book, notes for book X, this page. So I hope that is helpful. Let's see. Okay, cool. Wonderful. Yeah, if anyone has any other questions, let me know. And if anything comes up later and you know, if you have any questions, just ping Kit to ping me or hit me up or whatever. I literally just, I've set up so many of these for people. Yeah, I had someone that I think wanted to go on a date. I ended up just helping her build a bullet journal and now we're just homies. So like, I don't know if that's like a good thing, but you know, it's like, so yeah, I love doing this. Like it's helped me so much over 7 years, like accomplish like, and get through and just, you know, understand how my brain works and, you know, a good system to work in that. Like, I just feel like it's one of those things with open source. The whole amazing thing about the concept of open source is it helps you and you got information from it, pass it on and share it to other people. So yeah, no problem. Cool. Thanks, Mario. Awesome. Thank you. I hope everyone has a wonderful night.
No, we're not saying goodbye.
Oh, we're not saying goodbye yet. Oh, yeah. Sorry.
No, there's just one more thing I want to highlight. Hello. So as Curtis mentioned, the biggest thing with bullet journaling is that it's really flexible. And as my therapist likes to say, even skyscrapers are built to sway. So just making this something that really works for you, letting go of expectations, holding yourself accountable doesn't mean beating yourself up. It just means learning to pay attention to what you value and then acting in a way that reinforces that. Like it should feel good to you at the end of the day. So the point that I wanted to make is that you can, like, especially as a graphic designer, make a spread about literally anything that you want to. These are some things that I did. I work for ASI. So I did like return to campus reflection sheets. And then like I have bipolar 2. So this is like a mood tracker that I made where you create your color code on one side and then every single day you color in like a little leaf. And it just helps, like if you're meeting with your psychiatrist, you can be like, oh, this is like how the month went for me. And then these two, I'll link these in the Discord, by the way, because these are all worksheets available to print off ASI's website. But this is like a gratitude worksheet that just sections it off into items, places, people, food, privileges, experiences, self-qualities, and life lessons. Just because writing like 6 things that you're grateful for every day, like it sounds so cliche and simple, but it really, really like scientifically is proven to help your mental health and overall perspective. And then the last point that I wanted to make that Curtis said was like the reflecting. Matt and I were actually just talking about this earlier today. The thing about being a creative person is you're always gonna be looking at a moving target, right? You're always gonna be looking forward. And if you don't take the time to pause and look back at how far you've come, you're not gonna have the satisfaction of that progress. So spending time considering, what did I do this month? What skills have I learned? How have I improved since last year? like those are the things that will continue to intrinsically motivate you to hold yourself accountable. That was it.
That was awesome. Yeah, one thing I like to explain to people, and I think the difference in like just, you know, being early in your design career, like when we say young designer, I never reference it as like age, it's just like experience. And like someone who's got more time is, it's very true. Like that little like voice in the back of your head that like is just like constantly like poking you like, that's not that good. That's that. It doesn't ever like go away. You don't get to a point where like you're like monk enlightened. You're like, oh, now I'm a great designer. Actually, that's a lie. Some people are like that, and I think it's the biggest universal joke that most people with the most hubris usually lack the most talent. It's hard, but it doesn't go away. But what you do is you're just able to start silencing it better because you got more wins to stack against it than losses, right? So like what you're doing is you're building successes in your design career, and you're building like that reinforcement of like, I know what the F I'm doing because look at all these other things that I did and were successful. And that's how you gain confidence and you become more like assertive and like knowing, like when you look at something like, oh, this is right? It's like you're taking all the things you've learned and the things that have worked and you're applying it, right? So as you continue, you know, it's one thing to keep in mind, it doesn't go away. You just get better at like stacking those accomplishments and silencing that voice. And so it's really good to do what Kit said and like have that gratitude and like giving yourselves like high fives and focusing on your accomplishments and your progress and your growth. It's crazy like to look back on when you start the program and when you leave the program. And then, you know, as designers, it's so easy to just be, like you said, focused on like the next project because they never stop because that's the life we chose. You know, like, oh, I accomplished 1,000 things. I reached it. I don't have to design anymore. I'm good, right?
But that's also just life, right?
Yep.
Like you
It's
never
continual.
arrive anywhere.
No. So it's all about the process. And so keeping that in mind and focusing on like that aspect of it, I think is like kind of like calming and you know, self-reassuring that it's not like, oh, I'm not feeling like I just have this all figured out all of a sudden. It's like, you probably won't. You just get better at knowing that like you've been successful enough other times, you've stacked enough wins. So when that little thing pops up, it says, that's not that good. You're like, yes, it is. Because look at all the other things that are good that I've done this exact same way and it's worked. Yay. You know, so that's kind of like what like long-term and like I said, what being a young designer to like a more experienced designer is just having more under your belt that you can kind of combat, you know, the self-doubt with. So yeah, awesome. Thank you, everyone. That was fun.
Thanks for this. Okay, I'm gonna end this recording now. Thanks, everyone.
You did initiation. I wouldn't do it by myself.